Hello YouTube. We're gonna try to dual stream again this week to Twitch. So let's see if we end up dropping like major amounts of frames or not. I need to find the dual stream button before we do anything with that though. YouTube, Twitch, start streaming to that as well. That seems to be working at a much higher. Well, now it's actually averaging pretty good bit rates. All right, so let's see if Twitch is actually getting that, because it doesn't seem like it may be. My Twitch channel is still saying that it's offline. So what's going on there? We'll figure this out, surely. Let me try and see if I need like a new stream key. Did I reset that at any point? I might have. After that though, we're gonna get started with the weird idea that I had from a YouTube short a while ago. There we go. Stream code. Let me try again, because I might just have the wrong stream key. I might have the wrong stream URL, to be 100% honest with you, but let's try again. So yeah, we have that weird idea, right, where I wanted to implement an ability into the game where you just instant kill an enemy, and when you do it, the enemy just actually like disappears from the game. It doesn't respawn again, it's just gone. But then at the end of the game, I make a room before the final boss fight where you suddenly, or maybe at like a side thing, I'm not entirely sure yet, can be either or, where you then have to fight every single enemy that you use that on in wave-based combat, like 10 at a time or something like that. So yeah, Twitch just like isn't doing it. So yeah, that's not great, is it? I don't really know. I can just look up real quick. RTMP Twitch. Had issues with that in the past, I remember. But I don't think that we're going to be fixing this right now. It doesn't just work. To be super honest with you about that, yeah, that seems like it's altogether way too much work to figure out. Try one more time to see if I have like a login. No. It needs a URL and a stream key, and I have the stream key, but the URL probably didn't work. Hold on, did we just say... I think that just looked like it was live for a moment. Did it actually work? Hold on. Let me just go to my Twitch channel and see if past broadcasts now have anything in it. Why is my channel not showing? It's supposed to show past broadcast, isn't it? Maybe not. Alright, one more try, just to see. And if this doesn't do it, we're just going to get a move on with only YouTube, because I can't spend all day just trying to figure out Twitch. Because what the hell even is this website? Yeah, no, it's very offline. Very, very offline. Gonna try one more thing. Twitch. There is a thingy majiggy somewhere. A website that has like default URLs, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so this just says that rtmp/live .twitch.tv/app should do it, and that's definitely not what I have. But I think in the past when I tried that, it also didn't work, so I'm not very hopeful, but let's see. It did connect, technically, so... It's not showing, though. It's just not showing. You want to refresh? No. Okay. So, no Twitch, because Twitch can go fuck off. I don't know, man. OBS might need to just integrate dual streaming at some point a little bit better itself instead of relying on some weird-ass plugins. Because OBS itself has a way that I can just log into Twitch and then just start streaming that way. But since I also am streaming to YouTube, I have to choose the convenient way, one way or the other. And the other one I have to like jump through hoops with stream keys and shit like that. And it's just not working. So, the ability. Let's get started with all that, shall we? Spell abilities, I'm just gonna copy over like a random one. Let's just duplicate that and call that gameplay ability delete enemy. Very, very good name, I am aware. So, delete enemy. What that's going to do for now is going to get our third-person character, get our closest enemy, which I don't know why this is valid as getting skipped. Definitely shouldn't skip that. Commit ability, which I forget. Does commit ability like automatically end the ability? I think it does. I don't think I need to like do this every single time. Because I've been doing this every single time. I don't think you need to do that. Also, it's quite loud. The window that I have open is like literally downstairs. So, and without it, it's gonna like get pretty hot in here because it's been a hot day. We do all this, right? And then, hello, welcome to the stream. After that, what we need to do is we need to keep track of a handful of things. I'm going to keep track of that in an array of structs. So I guess we just go somewhere like in here. And I'm going to do this fully in Blueprint, I think, because most of this is going to exist in Blueprint, most likely. So let's make this structure and call this enemy deleted. I don't know, man. Something along those lines. And that's going to have the GUID of the enemy in it. So that'll be the GUID. And then we'll also have the enemy class in it. Which will be, I guess, just soft class reference to just enemy in general. Might make that Blueprint enemy just... Probably doesn't matter. Probably does not matter. Oh, this might need to be partly C++. Now I think about it, because we're gonna... No, it doesn't. We can kind of hack this together in Blueprint. The thing is, the enemies quote-unquote activate through C++ code. They have an activation function in C++. And I was kind of like gonna hook it into that, but we can just check on begin play whether or not we're in the list of deleted enemies and then just destroy that like instance altogether, because we don't like even need to have it around at all anymore after that. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do that where though? Game instance? I guess game instance might make sense. Because I think that's where I have all my like saving stuff as well. This is really annoying that we have so many instance static meshes. Somewhere in here we also surely have Action RPG game instance. So here I think we have somewhere we have the player, we have the cursor, we have the death screen. That all makes sense. Inventory, save game, right? So we're doing all the save game stuff here. For which we actually do need to also save game. Open that blueprint. Because the save game itself is going to have stuff going on with it as well. So let's call that deleted enemies. And we can just kind of put that directly onto the save object, because we have, if I remember correctly, if I don't have that set up that way, but I should, in this project we might need to like refactor a couple of things about the save system, but we should have a save object accessible in memory at any given time that we're just like reading and writing to and from when we save and load. So that should allow us to just immediately update that save object instead of keeping that data in like the game instance and then only like working with it when we save and load. So we'll make enemies defeated. There should be a, where's the details panel? There it is. We have that as an array, right? So we can just add deleted enemy or something like that. And then we can also do a was enemy deleted. And in both cases, let's get our details panel back again. In both cases, that's going to, well, in this case, adding a deleted enemy, yeah, that's probably going to take in just a deleted enemy thing as well. It might be better if this just takes in an enemy like object reference, because then we can get like the GUID, which I think we have, yeah, that interface for, and then we can also like get the class, and then if we get our save game, we can get our deleted enemies, add something to that, can split structure pin, just put in the GUID, and this should be able to go straight into there because it's still a class reference. This is just going to be like saved as a soft reference instead. And that should be good to go. The only thing is, can I save class references like that? I don't know if you can. Because technically that would be the same as saving an asset reference, right? Unreal save class reference. I didn't really think about that. Class reference and save game, which is better, soft or, well, that's like not really like that point. It's just, can we do this to begin with? I guess we'll figure out whether or not this works in a moment. But ideally we should also try to check that out in the package build. I think this will be fine because the class reference is effectively like referencing an asset, right? So that should be like referencing from disk, if I understand how that works correctly. I don't trust ChatGPT to answer me this correctly, but I'm just going to ask it in the most like broad terms possible and see what it answers. Yeet. Yeah, I'm going to yeet the enemies real hard. Well, actually, I'm not going to yeet them. They're just going to like disappear. They're not going to be like Thanos snaps. Anyway, good afternoon, evening, night, morning, wherever you're watching from. It's afternoon here. It's well, what is the distinguishing time between afternoon and evening? It's 6:45 p.m. is what it is. In Unreal, I want to save a class ref to a save game. I know saving object refs isn't possible because they're memory pointers. How does class references soft work? Saving object references in save game objects and doesn't work because they're memory pointers. Yes, I know. However, saving class references, particularly soft class references, does work. It's commonly used for that purpose. So it should work. It does not load the class into memory unless explicitly requested. I know. Can be serialized. That's the thing that I needed to know. Thank you. After 6 p.m. is evening. Yeah, that's kind of what I figure. So it's evening, I guess, here. But it's really all afternoon. Well, on a very technical, linguistic level, I suppose, everything up until midnight would be afternoon. But I kind of feel like afternoon and evening like are two separate things, right? So yeah, long story short, this should work. That's what we were looking up. And if it doesn't, we'll figure out a way around it. We can like make a data table with like names. I made a video about this for like data assets. But now that I think about it, I should see if that... Yeah, that might not make a lot of sense actually, because I think you can also save... You can also just save asset references, right? Yeah, you can definitely save... Well, no, I've tried that before. Actually, what about data assets? Those are objects, references, but also assets. Could I save those? I don't think you can. I think ChatGPT is just lying to me, so that makes me a little bit less confident that it's going to work. I should check out whether or not data assets are directly savable as object references. I don't think they are, but I made a video with like an alternate way to save them at some point. But if you can just save them as object, again, I don't think you can, because those are like memory pointers, right? So saving a memory address is going to be like idiotic. But isn't that what a class reference is as well? Let's just move on. Wanted to hop in and catch you live. Love the tutorials and your work. Looking forward to your game. Sometime in like the mid-2030s, this thing is going to be done and you're going to love it. Maybe. Are you pulling enemies when they spawn? If not, you can just mark them as not active. So yeah, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing here is I want to... This is like about saving the class. And I think you can save... because we're in like a save game object here, right? This is a save game variable with an array. I'm adding to that. And I need to know whether or not saving a class reference directly is safe. As in valid to load in another like play instance later down the line. Because I'm not sure that it will be, but we'll see. But I'm also not pooling enemies, so like none of that like really factors into this. We're just gonna do this, and if we run into any problems, we'll get back around this and figure it out. I also did this in the wrong function. Fantastic. Should be in this function. Aren't we just having a good old time already? Why did that get disconnected? What the fuck? Oh, that's why. Wait, what? Oh, this is now just an object. It should be an enemy. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So now that connects back up. Hold on. Why does not thing make sense in life anymore? This is an enemy reference, right? Yes. So now this... There we go. So yeah, instead of doing that, we I guess we just kind of like for each loop over this. We don't need to get the class for this. As long as the GeoID matches up with the enemy in the level already, it should work. Yeah, but that's still not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're checking the enemy itself. We're saving two things. When we kill an enemy with his ability, we're saving two things, is essentially what's happening. We're saving its GeoID, which is going to be used for referencing, hey, is it within the deleted enemies list? If so, the enemy will like destroy itself before it can ever like get activated. That part I'm not too worried about, because literally that is just the GeoID, and that's just like this part, right? So we're just like looping over this, and we just check the GeoID from our enemy. Is that equal at any point to the GeoID that's in this list? And if it is, that means that we can return true, and that's kind of everything there is to that. Like this is super simple. But what I also need to do is I need to save for every enemy that I add to this list what class it is. Because later down the line, I need to have that class reference to spawn in a separate instance of the same class. So my save object is going to need to have a reference to the class alongside the GUID. We're just saving these as like a struct, but we're using these two pieces of data in like totally separate like situations. And the first situation being checking, is this specific instance of this enemy with his GUID already in the list? That's not what I'm worried about. The thing that I'm kind of iffy about is saving the class reference to then like later on spawn in a new instance entirely separate from the original thing that we killed. Is already in the deleted list. You would think that a map would make sense here, but it still doesn't. Because these things are independent from each other. They are just like saved together as a struct for like ease of use. But essentially these two pieces of data are entirely independent from each other, aside from the fact that they come from the same source, like initially. But like one of these pieces of data I use in one situation and one I use in the other. It's not like when I try to get the class I need to like give in the GUID. It's I save both the class and the GUID, and in some cases I sample the GUID, and in some cases I need to get the class. But these two things like don't actually interact with each other in any meaningful way. Because when I'm spawning in new instances, the GUID doesn't matter. Because they're just going to be like randomly spawned in at that moment. GUID I don't care for. Because they'll just be like one-off versions of this. So at that point I just like need a list of like class references, which can very much have duplicates and very much will have duplicates in it as well. Like the list is probably going to look something like if we have like, that's the wrong thing. If we have like the list, right, it'll probably be like basic enemy 1, basic enemy 1, basic enemy 1, basic enemy 1. Which, to be fair, I could probably make this into a map, just basic enemy 1 with the amount of like times I've killed an instance of that as like an integer for the value. That might make this a little bit more compact. But it's also going to be a little bit easier for me to program if it's just a long list, because I can get like 10 random things out of it and then just remove those from the array. So I'm probably going to stick with an array. But then we have like basic enemy type 2, and then we have again basic enemy type 1. And this is effectively just like at the end of the game when we walk into the room where we're going to be facing everything that we used this ability on at quote unquote the same time. We're going to do it in waves, otherwise the FPS is going to entirely crash. This is just a spawn list of, hey, these are all the classes that are in this list, spawn like a random 10 out of these, and then when they are dead, spawn another random 10, or maybe after every single one dies, it immediately spawns in the next one. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do that yet. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird setup. It's a little bit of a weird ability. This is what you get when you see a meme and you're like, hey, I'm actually not going to do that. Somebody saying on TikTok, hey, this is a stupid idea, don't do this. And I'm like, hey, that's a stupid idea, I'm going to do that. That's, yeah. So, and if we get to the end of the for each loop, we return this with false. So this is like fairly easy. This is the GUID side of things. Now we just need to worry about like the enemy. Well, actually, no, we have everything that we need now. Because this already is setting it immediately to the save object. So we don't need to explicitly like write this when we save game. Because again, save game just takes the current like in-memory version of the object and writes it to disk. And we're already like manipulating that in-memory version. So yeah, that should be it. Neat. So we just, yeah, we just make the ability now. This is actually going to be super easy if this works. Thought it was going to be like an entire stream, but maybe not. Get game instance, cast to thingamajig, what is it called, like BP action RPG game instance, that's it. Then add enemy deleted, which can be our closest enemy. Oh, fucking, that's a BP closest enemy, isn't it? Wait, is it? Oh, no, it's just a actor ref. Well, we'll just cast that to enemy. That's fine. So that can go into there. Not a problem for me. And that's, yeah, that's it. Well, and then it also needs to actually like destroy that enemy without doing any of the like experience granting. So just destroy actor. And then in BP enemy, we just need to check, hey, have we been destroyed before? And if we have, tough luck. Essentially, right? So, also need to make a spell or an item to activate this ability with. But I'll do that in a moment if I don't forget. Where is my BP base enemy though? That is a fantastic question. I think it's enemy base or something like that. There we go. So I was going to put that into its activation code, checking whether or not it's in there. We can just hack this together in a much more straightforward way, which is, hey, on begin play, like before anything else, we're just going to put this in a sequence real quick. Before anything else, we just check, hey, does this do it's like GUID, which again, we have on here. Just to make sure we have the get GUID, right? Yes, we do. Is that in that list? And if so, check yourself before you wreck yourself, essentially. Get game instance, cast to the BP game instance. And then enemy, was enemy deleted? This, if so, destroy. All right, before we start to try this out within the actual context of the actual levels, we're gonna see if this just instant deletes things that I spawn in. It doesn't. That's a good start. What are those? I guess it doesn't have a save game variable in, yeah, so that actually makes sense. Yeah, because that gets made in, I think, like the persistent map or something weird like. I don't even know where I make that, to be honest with you. It gets made somewhere and I don't want to think about it. So let's go into the persistent world and just pretend like everything is going to work out for us, because fucking it might. I first want to check, because right now we don't have the ability working. I first want to check that my respawning mechanic just works to begin with. I also re-implemented keyboard controls, because I was really tired of having to use my controller every single time, even though I literally got rid of the keyboard control mappings in my project because I wanted to force myself to use controller. Turns out if you just want to quickly check if a mechanic works, it's much nicer to just be able to use keyboard and mouse. For actual playtesting, I'll use the controller. It's on speakers, so hopefully there's not too much of an echo. Okay, I don't know why it spawned me there. That's mildly concerning. What the fuck? Oh, that's why. Okay, that makes sense. Let's try again, okay? It is really kind of dumb how it just cannot like load in streaming levels that are made invisible in the level editor. Like that's kind of weird. But sure. I'm not even gonna like bother with opening that chest and everything like that because I just want to get a move on and check whether or not my like just normal ass combat works. So this dude should only respawn once I touch the checkpoints. So he dead. Fantastic. Now, if I... Well, actually, this is a way that you could potentially... well, not really soft lock yourself, but kind of like confuse yourself. If you go back and don't touch the checkpoint and go back in here. Now the wall will respawn, but the enemy won't have. No, actually. Huh. Oh, because the enemy auto-destroys itself. Yeah, that actually makes sense. And the wall is bound to enemy destruction. So, I meant for that to be that robust. That was thought through. I promise you. So now, when I touch him, whoa. When I touch the checkpoint, that is, he should be back, and that's okay. I don't know why that thing is. That wall is still gone. Maybe that's bound to like a event thingy magic. Also, this is still weird. Access none. Try to read property save game file. So I don't have a persistent one in memory. It looks like that could be a bit of an issue. Not gonna lie. Let's try to find references to this because I might be in a bit of trouble. To the point where, if this ends up being the case where maybe I only make the main save game when I actually save, but that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because, oh no, it does, because I have triggered objects and killed enemies as separate things in here. Okay, yeah. We can still do that. Or what I can do is rework everything to do with saving to begin with and make like an active like hot object always existing. Or, and hear me out here, I know that my inventory save, which is yes a separate object, always has a version in memory, so I can just stuff this into the inventory save system instead. Just in case at any point this game would become like popular enough for modders to take a look at, just to fuck with them. Because that makes no sense to do. But it would be kind of funny. Yeah, so no, I don't think that I actually have a persistent version of this thing in memory. So what we'll probably do instead is just make a deleted enemies array here. It's not that difficult to like change this around. It's taking a moment, but we'll get there. There we go. And to just do this, and to just do this. And then in save and load game, we'll just need to add some stuff, but that's like not that big a deal. We have save game, something. Sets deleted enemies. I don't know, man. Somewhere like in this line. Triggered objects. There we go. I think this will be a little bit neater to hook it up to this. Yeah, I set this like whole save system up like a while ago before I realized that, hey, keeping just a version of your save object in memory is so much less of a headache. There might be like some reason to not do it that way, but I fucking either don't care or just haven't heard of a good enough reason yet. And then we also have a load game, which I think... Where does load game even exist? Because it's not an event here, is it? Oh my god. Save game. Where is load game? Is that somewhere else entirely? Don't tell me that that exists somewhere else entirely. What the fuck was I even thinking? Well, look at this event graph. What the fuck was I even thinking is a very good question. Load game. Okay. Load save game. That is in the... Why is that in the game mode? Why is that in the game mode while save game is in the game instance? What the actual... It's okay. It's okay. We already have a action RPG game instance. This is a mess of... I don't even know. Don't look at this code. This is bad. Sets... deleted enemies. Past me is an idiot. To be fair, like current me probably is also an idiot, but past me was like a very big idiot. Get deleted enemies. That is from the save objects, I presume. Yes. All right, that takes care of that. Like looking at geometry nodes in Blender. I mean, geometry nodes have like, and to be fair, so do just like blueprint nodes, but they have like caching of like attributes and stuff like that, right? So you don't necessarily need to like get this stuff. You probably still do, because caching a value, generally you realize you should have cached a value about like 10 hours in to making something. You're like, oh, I probably should have cached that. Well, it's too late to do that now. Which is how blueprints like this get made, right? I've looked at this in the past and went like, I probably should like nativize this into C++. And then I looked at it again and I was like, I'm not touching this. This works. No. This is not getting touched. This is how this is going to get published. Because if I even like move one of these nodes, everything might break and my game might just not be playable. And this is held together with like hopes and dreams and duct tape. Like, this is a mess. It's a working mess, but it's a mess. And it's not a mess that I really want to invest like 10 hours into rebuilding, even if it might be slightly better if I rebuild it. It works now, and that's all that it needs to do. I've got about 1,000 better things to do. Anyway, so yeah, we've figured out the issue with all that. We tested the normal respawning mechanic, still working. Sometimes I hate being overcautious. I back up my 140 gigabyte project on 3 drives. It's taken all morning to do. Those are some slow drives. Generally speaking, having like 3 versions of, what is it, the 1, 2, 3 rule, right? It's, you have 3 versions of your project on at least 2 different types of media, at least one of which is in a different location. So that would be like ideally have like 3 versions, at least like one of which is like stored on tape or something instead of a hard drive, and at least one of which is in the cloud. Just passed by to say thanks for sharing knowledge. That's what I do. Yeah, it's an old USB. Oh yeah, that at that rate you're not even like limited by the drive, most likely just by the USB connection, right? Yeah, 2 local, 1 cloud, and ideally the second local should be like susceptible to like different damage than your like first version. I only have like 1 local and 1 cloud personally, so I feel like that's kind of good enough. But ideally, like backing up to some sort of like at least a different machine, because if you have like a second hard drive, let's say everything is like on physical hard drives and an earthquake hits. Physical hard drives don't like being vibrated, so both of those being on physical hard drives, they're both gonna likely die. But if nothing else, like at least put the second one not within the same machine, right? So if you have like a secondary like hard drive within your computer, like if your computer shorts out, it can kill both drives at once. So like that's not great. So having them on like a external USB drive still is a little bit more safe, and then ideally putting that USB drive in a safe location as well. But honestly, like even like one of them being an SSD and the other one being a hard drive while still being fairly similar should probably be good. Because nobody in their right mind is going to like set up a whole like tape backup system for that one-man like game development situation, right? But ideally that is what you should do. Or if not tape, at least like high capacity like discs or something like that, right? Like fucking back up your game development project on Laserdisc. Maybe just Blu-rays. That would be the ideal. So yeah, the ability item. There we go. I'm just gonna copy over this one again. Got them unplugged in a drawer. Even got them anti-static bags. And then like a nice little like cotton bed where you put those anti-static bags in, because if they're anti-static bags anyway, the cotton isn't like gonna short them out or anything. But it will be like shock absorbing. That might be a good one. Or just like some old clothes or some old towels. Like actually, like I don't know. You probably don't live in like an earthquake-prone area, so it's probably not that big a deal. But specifically, if it is a physical hard drive, like a mechanical hard drive, making sure it's like somewhat vibration resistant is probably a good idea. Yeetus, deletus. I got a NAS that creates snapshots of my entire system every day. Yeah, so that's also like just good automatic stuff. You guys should also, if you're like working on game development projects, just be using some kind of version control, by the way. I should point out. And not just backing up your entire project to like separate stuff. Because being able to like revert files is quite nice without breaking everything. Like using something like Git or Perforce. New York City, where we don't have earthquakes, so no plates around. We get hurricanes, though. I mean, the thing with a hurricane is like whatever type of media you're using. Like if you are like getting big hit by a hurricane, I don't think it matters really what type of media it is on. It's just gonna be gone, right? Use Git too. Yeah, so that's probably like the combination of having that and then also like having your like entire like Git repository like snapshotted is probably nice. Yeah, probably a good thing. Still, having an offsite backup is always good. I set up a Perforce server like a couple of months ago. I've been using Git up until that point, but there's actually like no fucker that would allow you to like use Git with like an offsite thing with like large files. Git itself obviously allows it. Large file support exists. It's a little iffy, but it exists. But like GitHub, for instance, has a limit on like, even if you have LFS on GitHub, they just don't accept files over 2 gigs. And they're also pretty expensive. And you can't very well like put your Git in Google Drive because the order of which the files get written, apparently, turns out pretty important. And Google Drive like isn't really good for that unless you like zip it up and upload it as an entire zip, but that's like not very automatic. So I just set up a Perforce server, which was a bit of work as well. But these are actually like meant to deal with game development projects as well and stuff like that with like large files. So that's kind of nice. Now to just backup for all the data in the worst case scenario. It's good to have as many copies as possible, man. Far be it from me to say that you shouldn't like copy things over to your NAS and snapshot them, because that's definitely good to have. Like as long as you're also using some sort of version control. Like if you're backing up your version control snapshots, that's like doubly good, obviously. Still, cloud storage. Also cloud storage. Whether that be like just sharing like NAS space with like a friend or whatever, or some kind of like VPS server, or just zipping it up and putting it in your Google Drive or whatever. Last one is a little bit manual, but it works. Did we actually ever? Yeah, we did. So I need to put that in like an inventory though for me to be able to pick it up, because right now we don't have that. I'm a little bit scatterbrained. I mean, I'm a little bit scatterbrained at the best of times. A little bit more so today, it seems. Inventory. Add in a new item in this inventory. We'll just say one of deletus. Got a copy of Google Drive. I also forgot I got to update that. Yeah, do that. Because you don't want to get fucked on that. Google Drive is like actually, I mean, I don't like shilling for like megacorps or anything like that, but Google Drive is like actually the thing in my life that maybe makes my life the literal best thing it can be, because it's decently affordable for how much you get. I've been comparing a lot lately, because Google Drive did increase its price on me like a couple of months ago. It's like, okay, maybe this is the time to go over to Dropbox, and Dropbox is cheaper for the first like 10 terabytes, which is a lot. But after that, like each terabyte on Dropbox is like $3 per terabyte or something like that. Whereas Google Drive, if you have a business account, you can just like add a new user, and that comes with 5 extra terabytes, and a new user is like $20. I don't know, that math doesn't work out, but I did the math. It's cheaper to stick with Google Drive for me, at least within like having a business license with it. I don't know, with like personal licenses, it's probably cheaper to go with Dropbox still. Anyway, so we can just delete you out of existence, I presume. There you go. He's just gone. It's just bye. I kind of like the... I'm probably gonna put some effects on it, don't get me wrong. But I also kind of like the idea that it just makes them blink out of existence. But yeah, it doesn't respawn them now. So that's fantastic. That's really, really good. If I now go ahead and I save my game, this is the thing that we've been waiting for. So let's save game. We saved the game. Fantastic. We load the game. I remember Mega uploads days just storing terabytes of movies on there. Yeah, at some point that falls apart though when it turns out that, hey, storing a lot of data actually turns out to be very expensive for a company to do on a large scale. So this works. Great. I guess we're just gonna put in a temporary thing here in this first level to check whether or not this works as well. Again, just kind of as a check and nothing else, but open level blueprint for starting room. Let's check out if we have, like, I guess we can just use this particle emitter for the location. It's kind of bad, but it'll do. It'll do. Get game instance. Get deleted. No cost to BP. Game instance. Get deleted enemies. For each loop. Async load class assets. I mean, it is specified here as a class assets, right? That gives me good hope that this will just work. I'm coping super hard, I know. This is now just an object though, so we need to cast it to actor. And then we spawn actor from class. And we're definitely not going to use the transform of this thing, because that's kind of fucked. I know that much. I'll just use this and then use this class. So we'll see whether or not this works. In theory, if we go back into that room now, after we load game, let's first see what happens when we go into like a new game here. Nothing happens. That's good. No errors, no crashes. Good start. Now we load into here, and then if we go back into the first little part of this dungeon, does it spawn in? It does not. Why doesn't it? What the fuck? I mean, that not working with a soft class reference, that makes sense. Yeah, so why doesn't that work? Oh, because need to wait until it's completed loading the thing before we actually try to spawn it. Yeah, idiot. Yeah, it's on the completed pin. I do that a lot with these async nodes. It still doesn't work though. So I guess this cast might still be failing. I mean, if the cast failed, this is not gonna like do anything. I guess we might as well like check what it did load in. Because for 1000% sure, this thing is in the list, right? Because it is not, it's not spawning while it's spawning it in, but then it's immediately killing it as well. So that part of it worked. So that, like, the array does have an entry that it's using, sampling properly, and everything is working with that. So the issue is just with the class, which is worrying. I didn't pay attention, hold on. Let's pay attention to the print strings. Basic demon. So, did it spawn him in just somewhere else? Oh, it doesn't activate. I'm an idiot. This is just a... What kind of reference is this? Actor object reference. Let's cast that to enemy. Activate enemy. And then I guess we also should put the owner... Well, for now it doesn't matter. We should put the owner as something, because obviously we do want it to spawn into the right streaming level. Because right now it's just spawning it into the persistent level. That's why there were two of them just a moment ago. But there we go. It works. Fantastic. Now, the million-dollar question is if I... Well, actually, let's just close it down like this. Yes. To make sure everything is saved. If I close out of the game and I let that like properly close down and I restart it, does it still work? Because now when we like restart the engine, if it was something referencing something like in memory, it's definitely going to be in a different place in memory now. There's 1000% sure that that's going to be in a different place in memory. We also should check this within a package build of a game. Obviously. But I feel like packaging the game up and like sitting here for like an hour. Well, not an hour, but like a while probably. Waiting for that might not be the most useful use of any of our times. So probably we'll test that out a little bit later. But if we go back into the persistent world now. Let's see if it still works or if it's gonna shit the bed. It might shit the bed. We'll see. No, it works. Great. Okay, cool. So that means that if we... I mean, technically, if we kill that thing itself with that ability, it should also... yeah, so let's like kill this with that. And then... it should now have 2 entries in that list, meaning that it should spawn 2 demons. And it does! And if we go ahead and play the game a little bit more, I really need to get rid of this debug sphere, but I don't remember where I put it. I think it's part of the dash ability. It must be part of the dash ability, actually. It's kind of getting on my nerves every time that I dash, that I see this white sphere in my face. Well, I guess we can just kind of like do this, right? Oh, I never end the ability. Okay, yeah, that's a fantastic point. Let's end the ability, otherwise I can't do shit. Delete enemy. You also don't need to have a tag. Bye. And end ability. Okay, so what the fuck are we doing? Why am I just in 0-1 starting? What the... Why? I was literally in the persistent... What happened? I don't know what happened there. That's weird. So, how's you guys' projects coming along? Are you guys also losing your mind at everything that happens? Like in life? Let's try it again. And I guess we can just kind of complete the tutorial circle and skip the twin stick thing, because it takes like actually forever to do. And then, yeah, we can just get rid of you. Get rid of you. Well, not quite actually. Oh yeah, have you guys seen the like instant kill QuickTime event thing that I implemented like 3 months ago yet? You might have. I don't think we've like really looked into that on stream yet. I also am not playing this with a controller at the moment, so I don't know what the key bindings are for the. I think it's the C key, which is weird, but again, it's gonna be rebindable and stuff for keyboard. You shouldn't be playing this game with a keyboard. There's way too much stuff going on to play it with keyboard. But I should have it just as an option. So yeah, we can just kind of like send you away, never to be seen again. And let's just do this combat encounter real quick, just so that I can maybe like put in 1 or 2 more enemies, and then when we loop all the way back around. I also do find that it sometimes is just easier to keep mashing away at the enemies when they get that prompt. So that prompt needs to be a lot more obvious, and I do think it actually does... Ooh, voice crack. Hey dude, you're supposed to now like spawn in the next enemies. Why don't you? That's something we can look at in a moment. Using that like instant kill QuickTime event, it also rewards you with like 50% extra experience, I think. Something is weird with that, I don't know, but I don't particularly like super care at the moment either. Hey, we've got art assets. Kind of. I can't quite make that. No. I put this level together myself and I'm trying to like break it and cheese it, which I guess is a good thing. I think maybe like if we... Yeah, if you just do this like directly, surely, yes you can. But there's an item there, so you're incentivized to at least go over there as well. Anyway, now that we're back here, there's going to be a ghost spawning in with the fuckers as well. There's just one thing that struck my mind that would definitely... I probably should have saved and checked, but hey, what are you going to do? We definitely should do one thing in this ability still, and that is check whether or not this thing is a boss. Because if it's a boss, this definitely should not work. This should be just ineffective against bosses to begin with. Like, we shouldn't even commit the ability if you're trying to use it against the boss. So we can just... Ooh, that's a good question. I guess the bosses are their own like offshoot classes of the enemy, right? If I go like knight, like test knight, that's okay. That's not great because that also inherits off of BP enemy base. Okay. How am I going to check whether or not these things are bosses? Fuck. Didn't think about that. I guess I can just give them like an actor tag or a gameplay tag to signify that they're a boss. Or to be honest, I could just give a bool to the like base blueprint class is boss and just check it on. I'm probably just gonna do that. What is the Reaper? Like the Reaper boss is... Yeah, see, that is its own class, which inherits from boss base. So why the fuck does the test knight not inherit from boss base? Holy fuck. What the Actual hell, man. Is there any reason for this too? Because this does inherit from enemy. Just not from BP enemy. Right? And the night boss, which is somewhere in here, does use like the deal damage and the applied damage functions from that. But we can just copy that over because the Reaper has its own version of that as it is. So we can just kind of copy that over. So let's do that, because then we can just check whether or not an enemy is a boss base enemy or not. And if it is, just not allow the rest of the ability to execute. And we should be able to just switch this to like boss base, right? Yeah. Okay, this might break a couple of things. Why does this have like an HP bar component? Oh, no, that makes sense actually. Okay, sure, let's... We still have applied damage and everything. So I think everything just still works then, right? Because the only thing, the only thing that we probably got rid of accidentally is in the class settings, the BPI combat utils. Oh, these were the combat utils. Okay, that's less than ideal. Let's just add in... No, they can't have been. Some of them were, maybe. We need to compile first, sure. Then everything here is gonna shit itself, because why? Oh, local variables don't exist. Yeah, sure. Okay, this is gonna take a little bit of work to get right, I think. So I think what we're actually gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of all of this shit. We might need to rework some stuff there. It'll be fine. Don't care. We'll rework the AI. I needed to rework a bunch of stuff on that boss fight anyway, because it was a bad boss. Now that compiles, we can do this. We have our interfaces back. Get target. Just get target. We have like a target variable in this thing, because that's part of the enemy base class. I think it's maybe not. Oh, fuck. No, it should be. Maybe I just mistyped it. Yeah, that seems to exist. Sure. Okay, cool. We have... Oh, no. So how does that make sense? Because... Oh, target is probably part of the blueprint. This is what happens when you like work so long on a project and... If anybody ever asks you, hey, why do people online and game developers always say, hey, make small projects. Don't try to make like a massive fucking MMORPG right away. And you might be thinking, well, no, actually, I think I'm gonna. This is the reason why. Because I set up this stuff like a while ago. Without having any like perspective on like wider scope, and without much of a plan, to be fair, on how things were going to go in the future. And things are a fucking mess as a result in the like inheritance hierarchy of my enemies. So while I presume the issue might be, but why? This just has a separate. Okay, sure. Have it your way, I guess. We just make that a separate actor, or a separate variable. Sure, why not? Get cooldown. Get cooldown. Hey, cool little known fact. You can just copy and paste this shit. And it mostly should work. This also needed to go into somewhere else. Okay, let's just actually... that goes into... Oh, the add. That makes sense. And then time to add goes down there. That also makes sense. So this goes into there. And that goes into there. Get cooldown? Sure. Is cursed. Shouldn't ever be relevant. Yeah. Apply damage. Yeah, so then we have all this shit. Which again, just going to copy over. And hope that it makes sense. It might not. We'll see. Deal damage. We're going to create a matching function and just copy paste that shit in a moment as well. This should all work. No, because we have a bunch of local variables. I think the local variables, right? Actual damage and damage multiplier. Can I just copy paste these over as well? Does that work? Nope. Paste them as normal variables. That's not what we want. So that's local variable, and I think this is then also a local variable, and that should fix that. Fantastic. Then we have deal damage. Deal damage is, I think, hard-coded to have a certain type in it. Maybe, no, maybe not even. Was clearly already copied over from something else because we have these redirecting nodes. You know what? Maybe we should make a blueprint class for the base boss and put all of this in the base boss blueprint class as well. Because I'm going to need to do this like at least 5 more times. Then again, is it worth doing all this again into like a different base class if I'm only going to do it 5 more times over the next, like, I don't know, 2 years? I'm going to hate myself every time that I do it, but I only hate myself 5 times. And I mean, joke's on you, I hate myself every day. So, like, what's the difference? Fuck. Why can't I, what? Oh, okay, never mind. So yeah, that's doing the thing. Now we can finally go back into here and we can check if the closest enemy is a soft reference. Because it still is just a general actor reference. So we check, I guess we just check if it's a BP enemy, right? Or enemy base, because these things are not enemy base. Because these are now boss base. And boss base is C++ enemy. It's worth it if it makes it easier in the future, say updates reworking and such. I guess that's true. The thing is that it's mostly a thing of we need to like do this copying over, which you just saw me do live while being a little bit distracted, and I think that took me like 5 minutes to do. And for the most part, I do think that this is going to be code that's going to be shared. So if I like then want to change anything about this, which I don't assume that I will, but that's the thing, you never assume that you want to change anything, of course. if I have it in like 7 different places because I have 7 different boss fights, then again, if I'm trying to change this after having made the final boss fight, I probably have bigger issues on my plate. It's not that like big a deal, and most of these boss classes are going to be fairly individualized aside from like literally these couple of pieces of code, because mostly they're going to just like work over the stage trees, of course. So I guess there's no real reason not to make a boss-based class aside from the fact that it like makes my inheritance hierarchy even more of a fucking mess, and the fact that I would be like work that I would need to like do. But to be fair, now that I have this, I can just change this into the base class for it. Because this has no other code in it. This just has a couple of things. Yeah, I could probably just make a copy of this and change this into the base class. That's not a bad idea, to be honest with you. Well, we'll think about that at some point in the future. For now, I want to test whether or not this disallows me for using the ability on bosses. Because I don't want to be able to instant kill bosses. Number one, because it probably fucks a little bit with some of the code. Oh, we might actually use this. And number two, because instant killing bosses would be really fucking lame. Probably going to be some strat in the game that somebody discovers that'll allow you to do it, but just having an ability that instantly yeets bosses. And bosses don't work generally probably without the context of their specific arena in a lot of cases. So spawning them in toward the end of the game is also... I don't think that's going to like work very well. Like this guy probably works fairly well as a standalone like enemy in the late game if need be. The Reaper boss, for instance, has like references that it needs to those pillars around the boss arena. So without that, like one of its attacks just doesn't work. Buddy, why are you not doing anything? Oh no, he broke. Oh, actually no, that definitely makes sense why he broke. But yeah, I can't use the ability, so that's good. But I say I broke now. That's sad. It's really sad. So, what the? Boss param updates. Param float. Oh, this is not a BP base enemy anymore? But it doesn't... Oh. Ooh. What the hell? Why is this a... Yeah, this can just be a... like boss base ref instead. So I was still expecting in a blueprint base enemy, because apparently I thought that was a good idea for some fucking reason. Is that gonna break anything in here? No, because it's only getting its ability system component. And that is an interface, so that works on literally everything. So that's fine. Alright, let's see if that fixes his AI. It probably won't. Because he's kind of messed up in his own little special way. But we'll see. Isn't it just nice that I made this introductory scene for this boss fight that I now have to look at every single time that I fight this motherfucker? Okay, so you are still just like hanging out. Why is that? Care to enlighten me why that is. Debugger. You are in entry weight. And then you're going into aggressive. So why the fuck are you going to hold the hell on for a moment there? Distance compare is failing. It seems the target is 0, 0, 0. So, oh, did we not? No, we made it a target. We're not setting the target. That's it. We are not setting the target, so it doesn't know that we are the targets. That makes sense. That, however, is easy to fix because we can just go into what was that? Just gonna ignore that. We're just gonna set targets from get player character. Get player character. You know, on the one hand, it's nice that you have separate get player character and get player pawn, because if you have a character, it's nice to not have to cast every single time, but it's also like, I guess cast to character. This would be one of those things that if it didn't pre-exist, I would like instantly make a function for it. Matter of fact, that's actually straight up bullshit. Because most of the time you still do need to cast this to your actual blueprint for your player character. And I don't have a like blueprint library function to do that, to just get my player character instead. So I probably would just deal with it. Anyway, I don't know why I loaded a game instead of just starting a new game there. But here we are. Oh, hello, you're gonna try to attack me. That's cute, boy. You don't have a nav masher. You can't follow me, you fucking idiot. Look at that idiot. Not being able to follow me. And here we have that cinematic again, of course. Great. It's just great. So yeah, after this this works, this is going by so much more smoothly than I thought. I don't really have much planned in the way of what else we can do. Aside from like maybe working on some turn-based RPG stuff in C++, because I've been working on that. Well, that is if we... Yeah, okay, so this guy does work. But he's not attacking, so what the fuck is up with that? So why aren't you attacking? He tried to go to aggressive. Move to player basic attack. He tried to do a basic attack. Selected basic attack. Okay, cool. Good for you. That has doability. One of these 4 abilities. So... it's instantly ending this, I guess. Why would it do that? Also, fuck off with your music. Actor to do ability, that's the contact actor, right? Yes. Get the ability system components. Sure. Abilities. Give ability and do once. Makes sense. Wait for a certain gameplay tag to be removed. Also makes sense. Yeah, I don't know why it's... Why is it skipping over the attack? He's benevolent. I mean, I'd rather he not be, if I'm being real honest with you, because he's supposed to like hit you in the face. So I would much rather that he is not benevolent. I want as much like maliciousness from this dude as possible. So please hit me. That sounded real weird. He moves toward me. He even... My targeting doesn't work on him. Why does my targeting not work on him? What's going on here, man? I think my targeting not working might just be because his colliders are set up weird. They are... No, it's a pawn. I also don't know why he has this collider. I think it's to prevent me from dashing through him. So I'm going to get rid of that. Because we fixed that in a different way before. Oh, does the... yeah, that might be it. Nearby enemy updating on my player class, which is somewhere, surely. Player character. Nearby enemies. Alright, let's see. No, this just checks on enemy. If it's not visible, continue. If he's hidden, continue. I'm pretty sure that these two are the same thing, but whatever the fuck. If enemy doesn't have line of sight to the player, ooh, that's the issue. That's the issue. Set line of sight to player. Because we deleted that. I'm just going to hard set that to true because it's a boss fight, man. This is a weird place to spawn in. A boss fight always having a line of sight to the player is a fair assumption, I would say. That might not... That's probably not going to fix his AI, to be fair. But it's going to fix my targeting, which is at least something. Also, why does he have baked lighting on him? He's not static. What? So yeah, I have actually like got targeting now, so that's going to make this like a little bit more reasonable. Now, why are you not attacking me? Just doability and... I guess we just put in... Oh, I know what the issue is, I think. I think this is failing because we aren't giving him... Yeah, that's the issue. I figured it the fuck out. No, that doesn't make sense because the enemy should implement that on the C++ side already. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So that can't be it. Because we have the ability... It has the boss base, and then we have the enemy base, and the enemy base has the ability system components interface on it. So that's definitely not the issue, actually. Never mind. Let's see what it does with those breakpoints. Because if those don't get triggered, we at least have something. And if they do get triggered, we can look at the values. And we'll have some more information as well. I guess those lights are set to stationary, so they also still work on like moving static or like skeleton meshes. It's not triggering those breakpoints. What the fuck? Okay, so if it's not triggering those breakpoints, we are like, that's real weird. Oh no! Hello. It triggered one. This is valid. So it's gonna move over to this. Let's see. It picked an ability, heavy attack. Then I guess we also put in a breakpoint here to see if it immediately finishes or not. It doesn't. Which means that the ability itself might be messing up? Could that be the case? Let's take a look at one of these abilities. One of these abilities. They're all the same. Yeah, they're all the same thing, right? So they're just like giving it a different animation. So has something like fundamentally changed about this? Oh, this casts to BP enemy base. Okay, that will do it. Can we just cast this to like boss base? I mean, that's not gonna work. Yeah, no, of course not. We can get mesh. Okay, this is gonna be get character movement. That should still work as well. Yes. Character movement from this as well. And then what else is this hooked up to? The target. So that might be a bit more of a problem, but we can just get target. It's the same name, but it's technically like a different variable. Why am I not able to get target? Because that's not on the boss base. That makes sense. And there's also... fuck. Okay, let me think. Because I can't just replace this with a boss-based thing anyway, because this needs to work for basic enemy attacks as well. Okay, hold on. Let me think. So is there any reason for this to be the blueprint version aside from this target, which we can make into an interface? So if we just cast this to base enemy, it should work for the bosses as well. So cast to just enemy, the C++ class, because that should be able to hook up to that and to that, and it might even be able to hook up to the target, to be honest with you. It might be part of the C++. It's not, never mind. But aside from that, is there anything else that this hooks up to that's like super relevant? Or get actor location, we can definitely do that from this. And then this hooks up to, I think, is it this one? Nope. What is it? Oh, actor rotation. Yeah, no, we can definitely also get that from this. So the only thing that doesn't, it's this one. The only thing that doesn't work is the is getting the target, because we need to get the target's location, right? But we can just that makes sense. We can just change that to be part of the combat utils interface, and that should, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So let's do that. Let's make that part of combat utilities. Combat utils. Oh, we already have a get target. What the fuck even am I talking about, man? Why isn't that? What the? Get the fuck out of here. Get target. I at some point already made that and I wasn't using it. Cool. That should get fixed now then, I think. Just to make sure that the BP base enemy also like implements that properly. Get targets. Yeah, sure. I don't know why I'm upset at the fact that it's working, but I'm just upset at everything, okay? Just let me be mad. So now that boss fight should more or less function again. This has nothing to do with the ability that we were making anymore, I'm aware. But to be honest, I don't really have much to do with that ability anymore, because that's just kind of finished, unless we want to do like the visual effects for it, but I really don't want to do that. Because if I start doing visual effects for it, I'm just going to be sitting here not saying anything. Because I'm going to just be mostly confused. But yeah, so that works again, so that's fantastic. I did speed up his animations for his attacks a little bit. Ooh, that shouldn't happen. Why did he interrupt his own attack? That shouldn't be allowed. He tends to do that, doesn't he? I think that's a pretty easy fix, though. Because all that we need to do is we need to attack demon basic. Yeah, now let's just make that attack dot basic. And then allow or disallow any abilities with that tag during activation. So block. Intro boss music or mini dialogue. I mean, that's something to do at a later date as well. It's not like we have the cinematic now, and that's probably going to be mostly it. The cinematic is probably going to be more polished than it is now, but like a quick little purely cinematic intro for the boss fight. That'll probably be it. So block other abilities with the tag basic dot or attack dot basic, right? So this, yes. We just need to do that with all three of these. So block and block and block. That should now block every, and then for the heavy attack as well, which we already did apparently. Then it technically doesn't block the ultimate attack, but that's probably fine. The most important thing is that it doesn't like start doing one attack, because what I think might be happening is like if we have the like boss fight here. Wow, that's a really bad beat. Hold on. If we have the boss fight here, right, and he has an attack range, if I am within that attack range, he starts doing an attack. Then I leave the attack range and re-enter it. He triggers doing an attack again, and he starts doing another attack. So if he's already in the middle of doing an attack, we should just not allow him to do any of the other abilities. And then even if he tries to do another attack, he won't. So that should finish that. Aside from it being ugly, it's also when he does that heavy attack, that's like part of the boss loop here. Like baiting him into what? That's weird. There was a little bit of a visual glitch. Like baiting him a little bit into doing that attack. Because that like resets his defense back to 0, which means that you can do a lot of damage, which means that you can quickly like get rid of the boss. That's the basic idea anyway. So let's see if we like bait him into an attack. He does start walking again. So that should also not be allowed, obviously. Yeah, that's... What's happening there? Because that is super weird. Why does he do that? Because he immediately starts moving to the player again. Okay, let's think through that one step at a time. He attacks. Let's look at the ability, or the task, rather. Hold on, why is it not triggering any of these things anymore? What? What the fuck? We got rid of this passive state, by the way, because I don't want to do that anymore. What? Why? Why does anything at this point? I am so majorly confused. I guess he's technically still trying to follow me? I might not ever, like, explicitly tell him to stop moving? So that move to task might still be active, but why hasn't that happened before? I'm so confused about everything about this dude. Just do the heavy attack, because it seems like you only do this with the heavy attack. Yeah, so it only does that with the heavy attack. Why? Because with the other ones, maybe the other ones just aren't long enough to do it with. It seems like he only does it with the other with the heavy attack once he once he hits the ground he does that. So it's something about that, I think. Is there something about that animation that does something specifically weird? It probably has some kind of notifies to set defense to 0. Which just runs a gameplay effect to set defense to 0. So that's like nothing too major, I would imagine. And if we look at the doability, again, the fact that none of this is triggering is, well, kind of triggering me in its own special way. Because that makes no fucking sense. I should just restart the editor just to see, because again, how can we even like make him do abilities if this, you know what, not the point. Basic attack animation. So we spawn a system attached, sure, stop movement immediately, so it should stop movement immediately. It should. It doesn't, well it does, actually, no it does. Then it just restarts it back up. So when we interrupt or cancel or complete, we end the ability. And the animation, but the animation also stops when the ability ends. So it's not like the ability ends and we are... Okay, I'm going to put this over on my other monitor. You guys can't see it. Sorry about that. But I just need to see whether or not it goes into the... like, following state early. Because that's the only thing that I can imagine is happening, but I can't imagine why it would be happening. Where is my water bottle? There we are. But at least if I can figure out like what's actually happening, we can track it down. why it's happening next. Oh, I'm way too fucking zoomed in, but dude, hold on. Can I zoom out a little? And preferably not die in game as well. That would be ideal. Now it's not following the... Hold on, let me just get a little bit of distance. I can just pause the game actually. Sometimes I forget that that's a thing that I can do. Is there a shortcut for that actually? That should be right. Maybe there's not. Let me just get to the very end here, and then maybe it'll actually start like... It's annoying that once you move the player at once in the debug view, it doesn't like stick to the end. At all times. But here we go. Okay. Hold on. Okay, we got it. Get used to this music for a second, because we're going to be listening to it a little bit. Oh, you guys can't even hear the music, aside from through my microphone. That's fantastic. Okay. So, what happened here? What happened was aggressive, move to player, basic attack. And then it went immediately back into root entry wait, where it still technically is to this moment. So then why is it moving? Because it's not chasing me. It explicitly got told to stop moving in the ability. Right, because if we go into here, it is specifically told, hey, stop your movement immediately from the character movement component, which we do gap. That works. So that should invalidate literally everything about the other thing. But it's not doing the thing with the thing, with the thing, and the thing. This should be getting cancelled when I stop moving immediately. I think. Now I'm thinking, doesn't it? But why does it only do that with that specific animation then, and at that specific point? Just as... just as a little bit of a test. Let's see if I move that notify, if the moment that this issue pops up also moves, because then it's definitely tied to the notify, at which point it might be to do with... I don't know. Because also it's not like it's moving into the chase state. At least not that it says. So it's not... well, it is definitely aborting that thing too early. That's like, there's no question about that, but... can you just do the one attack? I probably should just disable... yeah, okay, there we go. It just seems to be specifically based on a timing thing. Nothing to do with this notify, so we can put that notify back where it belongs. So that's a bit of information, but it doesn't really help me. What's going on, man? Okay, let's close a couple of things. Put the microphone a little bit closer. Let's close a couple of things here. because we don't need any of this stuff anymore, because this works. Test night probably would have been good to keep open though. Instance we don't need. Enemy base we don't need. Don't know why that was open to begin with. Game mode, please get out of here. The ability, sure, can close that. This is the Reaper boss. Don't need that. This is stage 3 event update boss params. We don't even need that anymore because we are not using that, right? So we can just get rid of that. Because I don't know, that might be kind of messing with it in some way. I don't think it will be, but well, actually, is it being used anywhere? Might be. Let's just delete and see if we can still compile. We can, so those weren't being used anywhere. Doability, definitely want to keep that open. The play basic attack animation, definitely want to keep that open. Where I suppose this literally doesn't do anything, but we might as well like add a breakpoint here just to see when the ability ends, because the ability might be ending prematurely anyway. I just want to make sure that it doesn't. I think that's the next like good thing to look at. Seeing if the ability is ending prematurely, because if it's not, I get even more confused, to be honest with you. But if it is, I'm also confused. But either way, I will be confused, but we'll have a little bit more information. And the more tiny bits of information we can put together, at some point, it's going to click and we're going to have a solution. I'm not going to promise that that's going to happen within the next like 40 minutes before I end the stream. Because this thing has been the bane of my existence ever since I made him. You know what, that makes sense. Please just do the correct ability right away, because yeah, it's going to do this every single time now. It's a bit of a pain. Okay, so the ability doesn't end until now. So we know that. It's not that the ability ends prematurely. That's good. So, why does the state end prematurely? Because the state does end too early, right? We can verify that. The state is ending too early. Because that will run when the state ends. Which sounds like something a terrorist might say. Man, I need to like actually fix up this guy's like materials and UVs because they're horrible. But also his topology in general is probably like fairly bad, if I had to guess. So that's fantastic. The state. Hold on, what? No. That's not how that. No, what the hell? State exit never runs? What the fuck? Oh, this thing just... This wasn't doing... Yeah. No, this definitely does run. We just need to restart the engine, I think. Because the breakpoints in this thing in general just weren't doing it, I think. But it definitely is the right task, yeah. So let's just make sure everything is saved. Close everything down. Hello, Unreal. And open it back up. And while I do that, I'm going to close my Twitch stuff. Because obviously we're not doing anything with Twitch, because fuck Twitch, I guess. Yeah. Let's see if... maybe just restarting the engine in general fixes it. Maybe it was just an engine bug. It's always nice to hope, right? Like 9 times out of 10 it isn't. 9 times out of 10 it is actually like straight up like skill issue. But we can hope, we can dream, we can have ambitions. Well, the breakpoint thing definitely was an engine issue, because those breakpoints should have triggered. They didn't, but they should have. So levels, persistent world. Now we can put in a breakpoint again at the doability task. There. And let's see. Don't have a lot of room for my mouse when I'm sitting back and defeated. Mentally crushed. No sphere trace. I don't even know what is printing that. Might have to look into that. It's probably not related to any of this, but still. Be a good thing to... Why does it immediately end its own ability? That's weird. That means that this runs... Okay, hold on. That means that... Hold on. Okay, hold on. This is firing immediately. This should only fire once a gameplay tag has been removed from that specific actor. The tag that we're looking for being removed. So what it probably is doing is it's looking for a tag. Attack. Which is being removed. Activation own tag is attack.basic. So is it looking for the exact tag and not the tag or any of its children? Because that would be not good. Well, it wouldn't be bad, but it also would be kind of annoying. What the fucking hell, dude? State tree, go suck your... I'm so gonna fucking crash the hell out, man. I love state trees, but they do that just like a little too often. Stop it. Specifically seems to do that only when like the editor is being built from C++. If I just launch it from like the like as just a blueprint project, more or less, right, from the project manager and the like Epic game launcher, it doesn't seem to do that. Sometimes it just do that specifically when it's being built from C++, which is the weirdest fucking thing. Makes me think that it uses like different binaries, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, let's go back here again. Change this to attack.basic. Not crash everything. It's a wild world, right? Where we don't crash. And then see if that makes a difference. Do we still have the breakpoint here? We do. So yeah, what I'm guessing might be happening. There might be a couple of things that's happening, but it's immediately succeeding that task because one of two things is happening. Number one is the ability doesn't technically start until the next tick, and this is doing it on the same tick. And it's checking not whether or not this ability or this gameplay tag has been removed, but just does it have this gameplay tag, yes or no, and when it is yes, it says completed. That's probably how that task was to begin with. So that's either it's checking it right away and the gameplay tag hasn't been added yet, or it is checking for a specific tag instead of a tag plus children. And it seems to still be instantly updating, so let's delay until next tick to see if that makes a difference. It might not. The weirdest thing is that this used to work, and I don't know what broke it. It still immediately does it. What the fuck? Okay, let's just delay for a second. Well, maybe 0.2 seconds is a good start. I mean, I guess this technically is like a server function, so it might actually be like giving it and then like taking a couple of frames to actually give it. Right? Dark Souls? I mean, kinda, but not quite. Depends on where you, I suppose, draw the line when something isn't a Souls-like and when it is. There's definitely like a lot of Souls-like inspiration, just like twisted up with things that I don't like about Souls-like, which is the very slow gameplay. So it's a little bit more hack and slashy than most Souls-likes will be. I don't know, man. What the fuck? Why? Why do you do this to me? This makes no sense. I don't know. Even with the 0.2 seconds, that should be plenty enough time if there's like any weird fuckery with like timing. I only can imagine that it is because it is blocking other like instances of this attack or something like that. It seems like this might just straight up not be working the way that I thought it would. So maybe this is a good time to go back in and get ability. From spec handle and try this again, because we tried this once in the past with a bunch of behavior tree stuff, but I just want to see if I can get a object reference to. I still don't know why it's doing this sphere trace thing. Oh, it's probably this thing. Okay, figured it out. I want to figure out whether or not I can get a like object reference to a specific ability so that I can bind to its ending. Because the ability might just pretty much only be a no, because we checked that. It's not the ability, it's the task specifically. So if we can bind specifically to the end of the ability instead of having to do a weird workaround with like waiting for tags to be removed, which clearly isn't working. that might be a much nicer way to deal with this. So please just okay, so we learned something here because this is not hooked up anymore and it's still immediately exiting. So what is it doing? On state completed. Aggressive has no transitions anymore. Combat has no transition. Why is it exiting this state? Why is it exiting this state? I mean, we can check. We have a debug thing for this. I keep forgetting. We can check why it leaves the state. Still, probably would be nice if we can just like bind to a delegate on the ability instead of still doing the whole like waiting for tags thing, because that was a workaround to begin with. So if this somehow leads us into changing that so that it's a little less fucked, that would be ideal. But in general, I am a bit confused right now. So let's force you to do an attack on me. There we go. And then we can go into here and see what the fuck is up with any of this. I guess we do need it to like play out a little bit longer. Alright, what's going on here? We have this thing which lasts for like literally, what is that, a tenth of a second? Could not trigger move to player, and then we... What the hell? It doesn't even show that it attacked me. What the fuck? Now it goes back to entry wait, which also makes no sense. Does this have like a require? Check prerequisites when activating chart directly. I mean, no. But that's still, that shouldn't be the issue. But it couldn't do this transition. So it's trying to transition to basic attack, and it couldn't. Can't enter teleport attack because of these. That makes sense. Then move to player. Okay, let's see if those prerequisites prerequisites things were the issue, because maybe they were. I don't know. As far as I can see, everything should work. But like, that's 90% of programming anything. Is screaming at your monitor, this should work! And then after like 2 hours figuring out, oh no, actually I'm just an idiot. So here we fucking go. Back at it again. Yeah, let's that play. We can just actually play it out with one frame at a time. I just realized. Yeah, so this is. Wait, actually, hold on. None of this makes sense. Because it's still on root entry wait. It never gets to move player properly either. Well, actually, it immediately. It doesn't have a proper target, does it? We somehow aren't doing the target thing properly. Can we see anywhere in the debugger? No, because it was able to enter move to player for like a second there. Try enter move to player, yes. It did. And then it moved to player for like 0.01 seconds. So it couldn't do this because distance compare was source and target. No, but that's the exit condition, not the entry condition. Oh, so what it's doing is it moves to player and then it immediately on the next frame tries to move into this, but when that fails it goes back into here and then sticks around there, but it still moves to. Okay. What the fuck though? Why? Why is this suddenly an issue as well? Because this. Okay, so for anybody who is not following along with my thought process, I don't know if this is the exact issue, but I think what the issue is we enter the root state, right? Then we wait for entry. For some reason, I set it up that way. I don't know why. At which point it delays itself for a second and a half. Then it goes into aggressiveness, which has at the moment only the combat substate, so this might as well just be its own. It doesn't matter. It checks whether or not it can go into the teleport attack, which has a cooldown for 25 seconds and a HP threshold for 70%. So obviously when it is above 70% it can't do this. Then it goes to move to player, it does its task, and then on the next frame, because we're checking this trigger on tick, it tries to move into basic attack. On the condition that the actor's location is less than or equal to 350 units away from the target location. That instantly fails, because obviously we're not within that range. So what that should do, what it has done up until this point, is just remain within this state. But what it seems to be doing is after one frame going back to root because of its transition failing. Which doesn't happen in anything else, I don't think. So let's just actually take like the basic demon state tree. because that does something very similar. Well, it's got a subtree for basic attack sequence, right? So here it goes into the chasing state, where on tick it checks for the next state to go into. We can just change it to next state to see what happens, but whatever. In the condition that it is within a certain distance of its target. So does this do the same thing? Because I just said that it doesn't, but it might. I didn't actually check, did I? So let's give that a shot, because it might be doing the same thing and I might just not be aware of it. Because if it is doing the same thing, I need to significantly rework how every state tree works with its transitions, because that shouldn't work that way, and that's gonna be very jank. So yeah, so this one only ended at the end of its animation, right? So what we can see, if we go back to basic demon, we didn't have the, well, trust me, I guess. Oh, here it is. So it actually remained in a combat move to player. I don't think there's a nav mesh here, so that's probably why it didn't do that. Actually, it didn't. No, it didn't. It actually did do the same thing. Okay. That sucks. That sucks a lot. Well then, I guess what we do is we change this chase target thing. It's not that big a deal actually, because we can just variables distance to check, floats, target will be a actor, and let's make that an input, because obviously it's always going to need to have a target. We already have a goal, never mind, I'm an idiot. So all that we need to do is we need to get the chaser and the goal again, and in the tick event for this thing, get location, distance between two vectors, get the location for this thing, and check whether or not this is now less than or equal to that. And if it is, we finish task, which means that we actually never need to finish task on succeed here, because this is always going to, might as well keep it in, why not? So is that the same task that we're using here? Now move to player obviously is a different, oh no, that's the same task, never mind. So that then means that we can get rid of this transition. We can just get rid of it on state tick. We can do it on state complete instead. Get rid of this condition instead. And then do the same thing for this, because God knows that that's going to need to be changed. Yeah, this one. Oh, this one already had it set to on state complete. Did it? Fucking apparently. Oh, that's attack. That's why. So on state completed. Move to next state without any of these, and then the distance. I guess we can just set that to be like 250 by default or something. See if that makes a difference. If it does make a difference, that's good. It's also weird. Because if my theory there is correct, and it might not be, but if my theory there is correct... No, it still is doing the ability. It's cancelling the ability to it. I don't know. Like, why would it do that? It has no reason to do that. It doesn't do it on the demon. It had the same weird, like, not being in a proper state when it should have been thing. So this will fix that, most likely. But that still doesn't explain the difference between the like timings of the ability ending. Oh yeah, that makes sense, because this doesn't... no, that actually doesn't make sense. What the fuck? Dude, why are you like this? Distance between these two is less than or equal to the distance to check. If so, untick complete task. It's not that fucking difficult, dude. Which I can only imagine that means that this instantly runs instead. But we definitely can't get rid of that. Right? Yeah, so it's definitely doing that. So why is it doing that? I guess it thinks it just can't get to the player for some reason. Maybe? Let's get rid of this. Oh, no. I was going to say it just destination is 000, that's why, but that's no. Because it's target actor takes precedent. Let's see what happens when we remove that task fail, which we don't want to do, because if it for some reason cannot get there, we don't want it to get stuck either. So this is not a solution in any way, shape or form, but again, it'll inform us a little bit about what's going on, which is all that we can hope for at this point. It does make me tired now. I've been tired all day. I've been tired all week. I've been tired my whole fucking life, it feels like. Okay, let's see what this does. It's still not attacking me, so that's not a good sign. And is it still doing the same? Yeah, it's still doing the same thing where it's immediately ending. So the move to player thing is just kind of fucked, man. Why? I mean, I have to just decouple that as well to see at this point. Because if it is finishing now, I don't know what I will do. Because there's no way that it should finish now. Well, it still has that, like, tick event running, but... I guess... if either of those actor references is... No, never mind. I was going to say, if either of those actor references is not valid, it might think that the distance is 0, but that would actually not make sense either. What the fuck, dude? Why is it still doing it? How does that make any fucking sense? Transition, on state completed. It tries to complete the state fucking instantly. Right? Entry wait, it does like wait for a second and a half again, which, man, I'm starting to hate that. And then it gets to this again, which like makes sense, because what it's going to do is it's going to try to enter this, which it doesn't do, then it enters this. Trigger transition. Why does it trigger transition instantly though? Does the aggressor have a transition on it? No. Unless this task. Oh, that's... This task finishes after 0 seconds. And finishing this task technically is finishing every sub-task. Okay, so that's the issue. So we could have definitely stuck with checking that thing on tick. It does it within the task now, it's fine. That'll work all the same. We just moved it from a transition check to within the task, which is probably like literally the same. Well, not literally, of course, but from a practical perspective, it doesn't matter, I don't think. And if it does, I don't care. You know what? This way it's better, because if I have to decide to change that from not being on tick, but just being on a timer that checks a couple of times a second, now I can do that. Coping super fucking hard. There we go. Okay. So you're attacking me again. That's a fantastic start. You are not exiting the attack state. That makes sense, because we haven't set that up again. But we're making progress. We're making progress. He's attacking again. Just never getting to this point, which is fair, because it's... Oh, I was checking that. Yeah, so did it print out anything there? Maybe it didn't. I'll just get is valid and print that out. Because if it isn't valid, it's not going to print anything out. I just want to see, hey, is this a valid object? Yes or no? And I don't think it returns a valid object, because I've done this before, I think. And I think that was the issue. The fact that it was not a valid object, so I couldn't like point to it properly, and I don't know. If that doesn't return a valid object, I also just kind of don't know what the use of that function is to begin with, because like, unless that needs to be inside of a server event specifically. It would be kind of wild, but technically possible, I suppose. It is true. So it is a valid object. Okay. That's good to know, because that means that we might be in business. I definitely should not be checking this on the boss, because every time I need to look at that like 15-second intro scene. But it's either looking at this scene or having to walk all the way to the closest enemy, which is probably about as long. And at least this way I can appreciate the janky animation that I made. And get motivated to improve it at some point. So, we know that it is a valid object. What is its name? Its name is default gameplay. Yeah, okay, so that's good. So does that then mean that we can cast to basic... play basic attack animation? Well, no. Well, for testing purposes we can. For testing purposes we can. Obviously, if there's any other abilities that we do that don't inherit off of this is going to fail. So maybe we... Ooh, can we like make a interface to bind to ability? And well, actually, can we just like assign... No. Okay. That's not blueprint exposed, I suppose. the ideal would be this, right? Is that we assign to ability end, and then when that fires, we finish task and do that. If we can just make an interface that exposes a delegate input, we can just implement that on all of our abilities without like this casting being necessary. Otherwise, we would need to make a thing for that, which we can do because, yeah, we can do that. All of our abilities inherit from one specific ability anyway, because that's how we set up the like MP, cost, and the cooldown with float variables instead of the weird setup that they have that use like different gameplay effects and stuff. It still uses a gameplay effect. It's just we're setting the gameplay effect costs dynamically with like those values. So everything that we have inherits off of that anyway, but that's only for the player, now that I think about it. Yeah, so we can make a interface that still would be better. And it's not doing it. But that's weird, right? Because this only... Okay. This only prints if this cast is successful. If this cast is successful, that means that we're binding to on ability end. If we are binding to on ability end, we might be not doing the thing in... We could just open this up real quick. Well, we're not overwriting anything in the blueprint graph here. No, we're definitely doing that. And we're ending the ability, so that is definitely getting run. So what it seems like to me is that the like getting of the ability by handle isn't the exact same object that is actually running the ability. At which point I come back to my question, what the fuck is the point of being able to get the object of your ability? If it is like a weird duplicate, it's probably like your local version. And the thing that we should be binding to is like the server version or something like that. Because again, gameplay ability is very much built with multiplayer in mind. But I don't care about that. So it would be nice if that wouldn't be getting in my way. Yeah, so ability site ended runs. It just doesn't run the site here. It just doesn't run this. So we bind to ability end doesn't work. I guess we can just kind of check whether or not this is a instanced ability, because that might be something that we can set up. Because it did say its name was like default, so let's check what the value of is instanced is. Because if that is true, I might be able to set that to not work that way somewhere, and then maybe it'll work. I don't know, man. I just need to go to fucking bed at some point. But let's let's just see. Okay, it's false. So that's... Maybe I need to set it to true. It's not instanced, which I don't even know. Like, can we even like instanced? If true, try to activate an already active instance ability, end it, and re-trigger it. Instancing policy, instance per execution. Ability is never instance. Anything that executes the ability is operating on CDO. What does CDO mean? Each actor has their own instance of this ability. State can be saved. Replication is possible. I guess we just set this to non-instanced, but we probably want to do that on the parent function. But it already wasn't instanced, right? So I'm not like super hopeful about it. Gameplay ability instance policy is non-instance, which is deprecated. Oh, use instance per actor. That's definitely not gonna like make it better. We instance the ability each time it's executed. Replication is currently unsupported. This seems like the way to go. Make an instance for every single, or maybe not, I don't know. I don't need it to be instanced, is the thing. I just want one fucking instance of this object to be spawned in that I can bind to. So that I can actually bind to it. But maybe if every actor has its own instance of it, that means that the ability system component actually is getting its own instance of it now. Probably not. That's probably like not at all how that works. So at least have to try. Ooh, that did work. Hello. Okay. So, combat details. Get ability and delegate. Please, for the love of God, tell me that I can. I can't, right? It's not gonna let me do that. Yeah, event. Fuck. Okay. 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 That's annoying. That's really annoying. That's really fucking annoying. But I suppose the thing to do there would be to simply make a parent gameplay ability. Probably could set up like a cost gameplay ability for it, but let's just make this a simple AI gameplay ability. And this just on and ability has a and ability. And we call that. That's all that needs to do. Then, finally going back into this doability, we cast this to AI gameplay ability instead, which also has a assign and ability. There we go. Okay, so now we just need to, everything that an AI can do needs to inherit from that. And then we'll finally have this based on a fucking delegate. Okay. instead of that weird ass watching for tags, because while that wasn't the issue in the end, at least we now improved this a little bit. I would argue that it's improved anyway. I don't know that maybe it's not. This is stage 3 blueprint, so I guess the easiest way is to just go to this, go to its parents, class settings, and then AI gameplay ability. And then do make sure that on this, don't need to do that, just call the parent function. That gets rid of all these. Then the teleport attack definitely needs to also, because that's a ability in and of itself. So we need to AI gameplay ability. For the most part, like 90% of abilities are just playing an animation and kind of being done with it. But we also do have the... Do we not have end ability yet on this? Huh, we didn't. Cool. Well, then I guess we don't need to put it in there, because it'll just run the parent version of it. So yeah, I might need to go through all of the existing abilities at some point for the enemies and replace their parent class with the AI one that we just made. But that seems like it should now work, which is fantastic. Good. Progress. And we have the ability that just yeets things to... Okay. Why is you ability end? Play basic attack animation. Sure. We just add a call to parent function, and then we should be good to go with this as well. So this is what I mean. But that should be good now. We obviously also did the thing that we initially started with, which was way less of an issue than this whole ability reworking shenanigans. And that is adding this little spell that we created, which is going to be memeable as fuck, which is just buy. It feels really good to do. I'll be like super honest about that. It doesn't trigger their... Oh yeah, it doesn't trigger a death delegate. So everything here is apparently hooked up to that death delegate. This one was hooked up to the destroy delegate. This one clearly death. So I did kind of just soft lock myself, because I now cannot do that like at all anymore, ever. But I would only give this ability most likely after the tutorial anyway, because I want to hook in some sort of like achievement to doing every single enemy in the game, like just yeeting them out of existence, right? If you do it with every single enemy in the game and then go through the wave-based combat at the very end, we could have set up the actual wave spawner for this, I suppose. Might not have been a bad idea. Well, we're not going to do that now. But if you go through all of the enemies in the game, pretty much like back to back to back to back to back, if you're insane enough to do that, I want to hook an achievement into that. So I don't want to get a situation where you could potentially be missing enemies that exist here in the tutorial, because once the tutorial area is done, you can't come back to it, and I kind of want to keep it that way because that's fun. Kind of adds a little bit of uniqueness, mystique to the tutorial. Anybody who's ever played RuneScape, right? How many of you wanted to go back to Tutorial Island at some point just because you can't? And because you can't, you want to, right? Kingdom Hearts, Destiny Islands. You want to go back to Destiny Islands. You haven't been playable on Destiny Islands since the start of Kingdom Hearts fucking 1. It's been 20 years. We all want it, because you can't. Disney Castle, Kingdom Hearts 1, also, like, people were like, oh, it's on the map, you can definitely go to it, I want to go to it. No, you can't. That's why we want it. So I kind of feel like it adds a little bit of, like, mystique. And you can just start a new game and get back to it, of course, but it's just creating that little bit of distance. I feel like that works on people's brains. So I want to have the tutorial be only accessible as the tutorial, and once you leave it, beat that night boss fight, you can't go back to it. But that also means that I can't, like, really tie in anything in there to greater achievements, I don't think. So all of the enemies in here don't count towards that achievement, but it also means that I don't want them to be, like, susceptible to this spell. So the tutorial is just going to be normal, and then after the tutorial you'll pretty quickly be able to get this spell somewhere. I'm not going to just hand it to you. You do need to find it probably. I don't know where yet. But it's probably going to be somewhere fairly early and easy to get in one of the dungeons. Probably actually the catacombs, to be fair, because it makes sense there. Either that or the last dungeon that I haven't really, like, themed yet. Because I want to do one dungeon that's kind of reminiscent of, like, Wonderland in Kingdom Hearts 1 as well. We essentially just have one room that you explore with, like, different sizes and different, like, perspectives. Kind of feels like this, like, reality warping power would fit in there as well. But I don't know. For now, though, thanks everybody for watching me slowly go insane. And I will be back on Thursday. I've been feeling a little bit, not sick, but feel like I could be getting sick. So if I'm not here on Thursday, it's because I'm sleeping. In which case I'll probably be back next Tuesday, hopefully. Or maybe I'll just get better and not be a little pushover. We'll see. I'll be back on the next time we can stream, which hopefully will be Thursday, at which time, I don't know what we'll be doing. We'll be doing something. It'll be surprising.